With the recent allegations against Yamaha and their alleged use of factory parts on Hagen Deegan's amateur bike, there is no better time than now to look at the infamous claiming rule and how it's been applied in the past. While it seems like the world of moto is collapsing in on itself, this is hardly the first time that something like this has happened. Rather than recap the most recent story, let's take a look back at the history of the claim rule and when the loophole has been used in the sport's past. The wild history of claiming someone else's motorcycle is coming up right around the corner. Before we start, what exactly is the claim rule? It's essentially a rule that prohibits competitors from putting too much money into their vehicle, in this case dirt bikes. By providing a certain amount of money, those in the field can purchase someone else's machine or parts for a specific price. In motocross, the current rule states that you have to come up with double the value of the bike to claim it, so if a bike costs $8,000, in theory you should be able to claim it for $16,000. The rule exists in many different forms of racing to keep competitors from gaining an unfair advantage due to spending more money. But it comes with a catch, mainly how pissed off your competition is going to be. Let's see the first example. In 1976, a rider by the name of Mickey Boone tried to claim Bob Hanna's OW water-cooled 125 at Redbud. Now back in those days, the claiming rule was also in effect at the top level of motocross as the sport was rapidly growing and the rule had not yet been taken out. The bike had won the race, and after gathering the necessary $3,500 in cash, Boone submitted his claim to take home the motorcycle. But what happened next was a trend that would continue for years to come when this rule was put into place, when a claim was made. In an effort to keep the bike out of Boone's hands, all the other factory teams submitted a claim for the motorcycle as well. It was decided that everyone would draw out of a hat and the winner would get to claim the bike. With all the factories in the hat, Boone lost, and with it, the right to Hanna's machine. While not successful, it showed that such a thing was possible and that factories were spending more money to keep their secrets safe from the rest of the competition and pull ahead of others. Despite the failure, it set up our next case in 1979. In 1979 motocross, following the tour stop at Hangtown, privateer John Roeder submitted a claim for Marty Tripe's Works RC250. After submitting the claim, all of the factories once again put in their own claim for the bike to keep it out of the hands of the public. It was the same trick that they had pulled several years earlier with Boone, throwing in claims of their own to diminish the chance that Roeder would leave with the motorcycle. Against all the odds when it came time for the draw, it was Roeder who won, earning himself a truly Works factory bike. The great irony of this story was that the goal was never to race the bike at all. In fact, it never actually competed on a racetrack again. You see, Roeder only wanted the bike to write a comparison piece on the old Cycle magazine. After all of the worry, the bike was never to see the racetrack again, but its parts were detailed in the article on the magazine. A truly odd ending to a wild story. Shortly after this, the claiming rule went away for pro racing because factories were tired of losing their extremely expensive bikes for pennies on the dollar. In fact, the big four manufacturers of Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, and Kawasaki threatened to pull out of the 1979 AMA Nationals unless the AMA rescinded the claiming rule. Yes, the factories were even using their power back in the day. Estimates of the bike that Roeder claimed valued the machine at over $40,000, even though he claimed it for just over $3,000. Because the claim rule was outlawed from pro racing, we wouldn't see it pop up in a major way until 2003 at the amateur level. Buckle up because this story is a wild one, but I'll do the best I can. And I'll link the article to Racer X that details most of it in the description. 2003 saw Mike Alessi tearing up super minis. At the end of his career on minicycles, Alessi lined up against arch rival Ryan Villopoto shortly before he would compete at Loretta Lynn's for the last time. Despite Alessi defeating the competition, one of the riders in the middle of the pack, Adam Chatfield, stole a hole shot in one of the motos. In an effort to show who was boss, I guess, Mike's father, Tony Alessi, protested Chatfield's bike, forcing a full teardown. Angered by the cheap move, Chatfield's father saw a clever way to get back at Alessi. The next week at Loretta Lynn's saw Alessi sweep the minicycle races he entered. Side note, let me know down in the comments if you would want a video dedicated solely to this guy. Alessi was crazy fast in the lower ranks. But anyway, following the final mini-cycle event, Chatfield's father waited to the end of the 30-minute window that was required to submit a claim and put up the cash for Alessi's bike. Because the rule stated that you did have to have cash on hand to submit a claim, the strategy worked and no other factories were able to put the money together quick enough to get a claim. As a result, the Chatfield family left the ranch with a gem of a minicycle. But why was this such a big deal? Alessi wouldn't even race it anymore. Well, the bike was designed by Terry Varner, a legend in the industry who was looking forward to retiring the bike as some of his best work. Seeing another competitor hauling the bike away was a truly heartbreaking turn. A bit of revenge served in an unlikely form by Chatfield's family. And now we get to the most recent example, Deegan's bike claimed. If you clicked on this video, I'm sure you've already seen the nearly 8 hours of content on YouTube about the Yamaha situation where Brennan Schofield tried to claim Hayden Deegan's bike. Now, a quick synopsis of this is that following one of the rounds at Loretta Lynn's, Brennan Schofield attempted to use the claim rule to take home Hayden Deegan's allegedly factory bike. Upon doing this, he was allegedly confronted by Tim Cotter of MX Sports, Mike Birkin, an AMA official, and Brian Deegan, Hayden's father. Now, this is where the story starts to get murky, and there are several different directions that the story can take. Rather than dive into the he said, she said, I encourage you guys to go look up some other videos about what's going on. If you do, you'll notice that there's about 5 different versions of the story, and it seems like it's changing every day, so for the sake of this video, I'm going to stay out of it. So rather than give my take on this, I'm going to say it plain and simple. I don't know what happened, and quite frankly, I've heard so many different versions of the story that I question anyone that claims to have it 100% figured out. What we do know is that a bike claim was attempted, and Star was not happy with it. Did they have factory parts on the bike? It's a possibility, but even if the 38 was completely stock without any factory parts, I guarantee someone in the field has factory support on their bike. Racing at any level has always been a money game, no matter what you do to try and stop it. Someone will always attempt to skirt the rules. Now, I'm not saying that Yamaha did this, but you would be foolish to think that the entire field is playing by the rules. There's just too much on the line. But is this rule appropriate moving forward? I've seen several different takes, but I do think it has a place at the amateur level. While it may not be perfect, it certainly punishes teams for throwing incredible amounts of money at a class that is designed to keep costs down. But what do y'all think? Does this rule still have a place in amateur racing, or should it be scrapped altogether? Let me know down in the comments below. Stay tuned as the storylines from this decision are just starting to unfold. It seems to be getting more wild and messy by the day. But anyway, thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed this history of the claim rule, and we will see y'all in the next video.